Good morning, everyone. It's nice to see you this morning. As you may have just seen, I was adjusting the camera a little bit. It's a beautiful, beautiful day here in coastal Virginia, yet again. Um, it's winter and it's acting like winter, and we love that very much. It's nice to be here with you. It's nice to be given the opportunity to share truth and insight, the presence of God. And so let's begin our day by doing our breath exercises. If you're out there with me today, please send me a little message or a thumbs up to let me know you're here. And your contributions to support my work, your love as dollars, can be contributed at paypal.me/ capital M Mystic, capital P Paul. I look forward to your support. Thank you. So let's begin our breathing exercises this morning. So we breathe in through the nose, we hold, and then we breathe out through the mouth. So today we begin with in through the nose, hold, in through the nose, hold, in through the nose, hold, continue. In through the nose, hold, out through the mouth. Let's open our eyes and shake our hands, wiggle our toes. Good morning, Shireen. It's nice to see you. And here we are. Here we are. Here we are. And so the great understanding, the truth, is manifested as all that is. When we experience truth, we feel it. There's no anxiety in truth. There's no confusion in it. When someone asks, for instance, and you're standing outside and you're on the phone, excuse me, and they say, "Is the sun up there?" And you're standing outside and the sun's up and you can see it, and you say yes, there's no there's no anxiety, there's no attachment, there's no consideration, there's no feeling of anything other than just what's so. Well, that feeling of what so is the feeling and the experience of all that is as truth. And that is the most incredible and most amazing realization, is that truth, the divine presence of God within ourselves, when manifest, when it presents itself, whether it be through the physical action of a hug, or whether it be through the speaking of what's so in the moment, it's neutral. It just flows out and feels as it can. It's almost as though it has no quote unquote feeling whatsoever. It's just there. It is. Realizing that, understanding the self, my real total being, as the presence of all that is manifest through me, is in fact the space of enlightenment, is in fact the space of knowingness. There is no question about it. Now, frequently, this isn't the most desirable state for people to experience in this three-dimensional plane in the United States of America today, because people, generally speaking, are not really ready to realize that I am the presence of God wherever I am. Recently, for a couple of years, I had the pleasure of being the minister at a local congregation, and it was upon me to simply share and simply present the message that I am the presence of God wherever I am, that you are the presence of God wherever you are. And the whole of enlightenment comes from the choice of denying the fear, which is the conditioning that tells us that we're separate, and embracing what's so, or affirming the truth. What I realized today was the congregation generally desired to hear stories about how others had come to the understanding that that state of consciousness is simply available to us, which is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful place to be, to sit and or stand and or be in the presence of someone telling the story of someone who became aware of their divine presence, is a comforting reality. It lets me know that it is available and or possible. But at some point, those of us seeking truth choose to move beyond that and apply the processes of becoming consciously part of the awareness, all that is as myself. And that's been the movement that I've grown up in. So at 68 years old, I came on the world and I came into some level of knowingness in about 1964. And when that shift in me began to process the who I was as a human being in that moment was highly confused. And I was stumbling around and I was attaching myself to this idea and that idea and this idea and that idea. But one thing was very much part of that whole realization at that time. And that was the message of a shift in vibratory status of this three-dimensional plane, which was talked about then as the dawning of the age of Aquarius, the presence of Aquarius, which we have now moved into. That happened technically in the year 2000. We moved from the Piscean age, which was the 18th and 19th, the late 17, 18, and 1900s, into the Aquarian age at 2000. And so the Piscean age, any of those of us who have any understanding of the zodiac and all this and that, and the impact of the Piscean age, the impact of the Piscean vibration, knows that it's about law and order. It's about direct and specific activities that have direct and specific activities on this three-dimensional plane, into the age of Aquarius, which is about all of embrace, of oneness, of beingness. And so we can talk about the whole shift that happened from from the end of the Second World War up through, in my experience, in the United States of America, the unsettling experience of the 1960s and 1970s, where the whole of the consciousness of the general population in the United States of America made a shift. The restrictions and the confinement that we experienced within our day-to-day society changed. Dr. Spock put out a book on how to raise babies, and in that book, Dr. Spock brought forward the whole concept that spanking your child may not be the best way to get them conditioned to do what it is one wants it to do. It can damage their psychology in some way or another. Now, it's not my point to talk about any of that at all, but that's a real shift from how it was manifest in my life when I was being raised. There was never really any big conversation about, don't slap your child, don't spank your child, when I was being raised in the 1950s. But by the time the 1970s got here, that was a very present conversation among the more enlightened or the more educated population. And that doesn't mean to say that enlightenment and education are necessarily aligned. But my point about it is that we've been shifting, and there's been acknowledgments of that shift in the greater picture all along. When we'll just go back to the year 2000, when the calendar shift from 1999 to 2000 was imminent, there was huge fear put forward that, oh my gosh, the whole of the United States of America operates on computers, and all those computers will turn over to the year 2000 and everything will be lost and all the banking will fall apart and the money will disappear and so forth and so forth and so forth. And we didn't see any of that immediate shift take place. Although we did see a lot of change manifest over the ensuing few years in how we operate in this digital, quote unquote, digital world. When 2000 manifest, we were still operating basically in a quote end quote analog world. Over the course of the next 10 years from 2000 to 2010, or maybe we could say 2000 to 2012, we completely shifted out of analog into digital. And then 2012, and what was the big thing going on about 2012? Well, that was the end of the Mayan calendar. And oh, the world's coming to an end. Oh, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Oh, but what we know now, those of us who pursue intuitive understanding, is we shifted entirely in how the three-dimensional world is manifest. The operation of moving from analog to digital manifest in the way we operate in this three-dimensional world today is entirely different. In 2012, the idea that I could sit in front of you here in my kitchen and talk, and you could see me as though we are one-on-one together, was yet just an idea, a possibility. But with the advent of digital understanding, here I am talking to you. And so from 2012, it was the end of the Mayan calendar and nobody knew what was really going to happen. And that happened on the 21st of December, 2012. That was the move. That was the solstice activity. Good morning, Mary Lee. That was the solstice activity of that time in 2012. And from 2012 to 2020, we've seen incredible changes. Absolutely incredible changes. Arguably some of the most impactful changes of the last 60 years, which is my life. Plus the advent of this whole pandemic experience manifesting and literally shifting the way you and I live in this world today. And the surprising thing is that this pandemic not only affects the way you and I live here in the United States of America, but it also significantly impacts the way human beings live in Lebanon or Syria or Germany or Siberia or Africa or Australia. This experience we're having right now, known as the coronavirus pandemic, has had an impact that's very similar to everyone on the planet Earth. We are one. for real right now. And so, in the more spiritual conscious, or the more uh, uh, astrologically conscious, this movement up to the 21st of December 2020 is significant. One of the things that's become clear to me in the recent days is we are getting so close to this life-altering solstice gateway, which opens on the 12th of December and culminates on the 21st. This is the tail end of clearing the past. Whatever comes up, breathe, release it, and step into the light, which is myself. The confusion and the misunderstanding and the delusion of this three-dimensional plane is thinning. The veil is thinning radically. And we are going to soon know differences that we did not understand before. Arguably, this particular solstice is the completion of the quote unquote dawning of the age of Aquarius. Technically, the age of Aquarius is in full manifestation as of this solstice. The reason I bring all this stuff up is because the time is coming where we get to unify all of this understanding and wisdom. You and I know that beyond the whole idea that this world that we were born into and raised in, that the whole of how it was brought to us, how we were trained for it, is crumbling, and something entirely different is manifest. And it creates huge confusion for a lot of people all over the world. And this physical manifestation of it, known as coronavirus, unifies that confusing place. There is confusion around the world today, and it has the title coronavirus wherever you are. Doesn't mean there isn't more different confusing things, but that one is right there right now. That's a unifying experience. The whole world is in the same place on one singular aspect. Very empowering. There is so much going on. I read this thing last night. Arguably, it's some kind of of uh, what's it called? What do they call those things nowadays? Anyways, it's some kind of a fear. It's a conspiracy theory, arguably. But what it was talking about was that the United States military machine is in activity being deployed all over our United States of America positioning in the world. Navy is off of the West Coast with aircraft carriers. Navy is off the East Coast with aircraft carriers. There's preparation for all kinds of activity as it has to do with what's going on with the election and all kinds of other, just all kinds of stuff. And those of us who realize that this is all played out on a much, much, much broader plane than the simple thing we can see through our eyes, who accept that this shift in vibratory consciousness is taking place and officially opens in 2 days, the 12th of December, and remains wide open. The door will be fully open until the 21st, puts us in a position to be conscious of the divine experience we are. Because when we deny the fear and affirm what's so, we ascend. Our vibratory rate rises. And it's all about vibratory rate. Quantum physics has taught us and shown us that it's all about the vibratory rate. This whole experience, God, we are all part of all that is. And all that is operates in a vibratory range. And the unifying of all that is comes to the harmonization of that vibratory range. And we are part of it. And being aware of the presence of God as myself helps me, helps you to better embrace and consciously choose to ascend into a more harmonized vibratory consciousness. So I'm grateful to be here. I'm thankful that I am given the voice to speak this truth, and I am thankful that you have came to listen to that which I am given to share with you. I acknowledge you as the presence of God. I embrace you as the presence of God. I embrace myself as the presence of God manifest right here, right now, and all is well. Namaste, namaste, namaste.